Hello captains, welcome back to another video. Now, I've installed New York City X from Dreswick Design. I'm sorry if I've been mispronounced your name, guys. One thing I noticed when I loaded it up straight away here is my frames, although they've settled down now because I'm on the outside, when I go into the cockpit, they actually increased from what I had before. I think in the cockpit I was getting between 25 to 35, whereas I'm actually getting between 30 to 40. So we've had a frame increase when we're inside the cockpit. You know, when we're outside the cockpit, it does jump down a little bit. But, yeah. Now, straight away, we've got our trees back. Visually, we can see a difference here. Trees are back. The airport's looking pretty much the same as it was before. And the sky looks the same as we had in the last video, because in the last video we had just Mega Scenery installed, and we saw what New York City looks like, and we saw what the state of New York looked like. Now we're not going to be going flying around the state of New York because Dreswick Design doesn't deal with that, it just deals with New York City. So this is a New York City only video. But I want to address something first, because there's something that's been niggling me in the past few videos that I've been wanting to say, and it's a real issue I had and a real problem I was facing until I solved the problem and found out what was going on. So and it only affects scenery or terrain items. It doesn't affect airplanes, it doesn't affect weather. It just affects, for me, airports, regions, or any terrain mesh that you might put in, which was when I loaded it up. And if you go back to the first early videos, you'll see this. We come back and there's problems. Like, there's problems everywhere, like trees not showing. There would be like blue lakes sort of on the runway or on the horizon here, just things going weird, you know. And so I was like, what's going on? Anyway, there's three things that you need to do in order to solve it, because I've done them three things now, and I've loaded in and everything's fine. But when I loaded in before without performing one of these steps, I had like things floating in the air. Buildings, I think, were just like flying off like rockets, and it was pretty freaky looking. And I had blue lakes here where these textures were, and it just all looked a bit weird. So actually, this airport, I just want to also, oh well, I'll mention that afterwards. So yeah, so what I figured out was there's three steps when you install any scenery items, terrain items, or airports. There's three steps you need to perform before you even go flying. Otherwise things are going to look weird. Okay, so the first step, right, once you install your program, restart your computer. Okay, this was a thing you had to do with FSX, but you didn't need to do with Prepared. But I find that it helps just to restart your computer. Then, before you even load it Prepared, if you've got ORBX, boot it up, the FTX Central version 3, go into your vector scenery if you have it, and run the configuration tool that they give you with that. If you haven't got it, you'll probably still find the configuration tool under settings, and you can still run that tool and run the auto configuration for airports. Let it run through all your scenery, press apply, and exit out of that. Right, once you've done that, that's the first step. Once you've done that, go into your PTA Assistant if you have it, and apply the shader preset. Okay, then the final step is boot up your sim. Okay, and go into your it might even say, do you want to add this add-on? You click yes, whatever. Load up the default airport. You can even load up the airport you've just installed if you really want to, but it doesn't really matter. Just load up an airport and a plane. Doesn't really matter what plane, because you're not going to be flying. I better do this quickly because there's a plane coming, I can see. Load everything up, then sit on the runway and if you see things, you might see things that are a bit freaky, then, or you might not. But either way, you exit out of prepared, exit out the software. If you see blue lakes when you do that, then go back to PTA Assistant and reapply your shaders. Okay. Then once you've done them 3 steps, you know, the FTX vector tool, PTA Assistant, and then loading up your sim to begin with, when you come back to it, it will look like this. It'll look normal. Now, one thing I want to say quick before we take off. This airport is LaGuardia. That's where we're set at, which is the airport we've done all the time. I think I better take off now because this dude is coming around to take off. So we best get off in the air. Let's take off. So LaGuardia, we've always taken off from LaGuardia. Now, what we're seeing now, as you can see here, the textures here are still that mega scenery texture. Okay, this airport is Rex HD airport. Okay, so get a good look at it, because this airport won't be this airport when we come back. We will actually have loaded in when we come back to this airport. I've got the Dreswick Design Airports add-on as well, which they handle LaGuardia. So this, what we're seeing here, will change. So all these buildings and terminals and everything you see there will change again. So once we get into the air now and we head off to New York City, which we should be able to see really somewhere along the skyline. I don't know where it's put us. It was behind us. It's placed us on that runway. So usually we've taken off from the other runway. So we need to turn left this time instead of right. We should start to see some changes and some differences in everything. So when I come over here, we should see in the distance over here New York. Okay, I just got to do a turn towards, so I can just about see the buildings here and the skyline coming in over there. There should be a lot more detail added. My frames have okay improved, and I do expect them to drop when we get, hopefully we get to 2,000 feet before we hit New York. But there's New York over there, just loading in now by Dreswick Design, and I can just see now straight away there's a lot more building placements, and even here there's been buildings placed on top of the mega scenery stuff. I think that's the mega scenery. Dreswick Design does say that they do put down the textures at 30 centimeters, and also, let's just do a turn over here, they also handle New Jersey, Brooklyn, like the 5 boroughs of New York basically is what is included in the New York City X package, but no airports, because obviously they sell that separately. We want to come over, oh yeah, there is Central Park, that's where we want to hit. Okay, so we're coming up to our 2,000 altitude. I'm going to fly over Central Park and see what we can see. Flaps are up. Consistent 30 frames, I feel. Maybe 27 to 35, but it's consistent, so that's good. That's the parking brake on that. Right, so here we are, and this is all Dreswick Design that has been placed down. I don't know if I think they've replaced the mesh as well for New York City. So this is Dreswick Design mesh, although some bits of it do look like, see now it doesn't load in that fast, and that's just an issue with my CPU, not the software itself. We're going to fly over Central Park. As you can see straight away, there's a lot more buildings placed in here, 3D buildings, and that's probably why as well it has a little bit of an issue loading in everything, because there's just a lot more. I expect my frames will take a big hit when we do this. Now I was watching, I was in a forum, and I was sort of investigating as to why my trees weren't turning up. Central Park, by the way, looks a lot better. You can see the golf course, the lake. It looks a lot better than the version of Mega Scenery, which, to be honest, it was just like a green splat with a blue puddle. This one, you can actually see features and terraflora trees, and it looks really nice. The skyline of New York, look at that. It looks amazing. And if you come in at night, which if we do the what is it? I've never used this time previewer. This is the first time, guys. Then we can see what it looks like at night. Oh, gosh. And daylight coming in. Look at that. That is amazing. Way, nighttime. That's pretty cool. Look at that. And the stars moving as well in the sky. Look at that. That's ace. Oh man, I've load it through, and then we got day, and then so you can see like the best time to come flying for the scenery is like this time. Look at the buildings, the way they cast their shadows. You know, here it looks a bit fakey. Look at that. That looks a bit fakey. Whereas, you know, when the light is right, it looks a lot more real. I think the time of day that you fly, we're a bit high here, the time of day that you fly really has an effect on what it looks like. So pick times of day where it's going to look real for the lighting, but obviously that depends on which angle you're pointed at. If we were looking at this from behind, it would look a lot different. See, these buildings look fantastic. Look at that 3D modeling. You know, them buildings look real. Oh, they've done a really good job. Well done, guys. Well done. We're way too high, by the way. Let's come down. Now, that's the only thing I find is a bit freaky, is every time you switch a camera like that, and then you go like that, and things are still loading in, which were already loaded in before. You know, you lose that kind of that load. Well, that's all right now. But that's just a small thing. You're obviously not going to be, if you're flying in on an approach, you're not going to be looking around everywhere. You're going to be concentrating on what's ahead, and that's all loaded in, so you don't got to really worry about it. We need to get drop some altitude here. We're way too high. Is it me, or does it feel like we're flying slower over this area? I am sure we flew a lot faster before. I don't know, it could be me. Right, so let's trim this sucker off for the right 2000 altitude for this little comparison. And there we are, hitting that that cloud base that we hit before. I think I've advanced the time by 1 hour, so there is like an hour's difference with the timeline. Bit more speed there, I feel. Right, there we go. I think we're just on the brink of a wind current here, because I can't trim it to exactly. But anyway, that will do. So yeah, coming in, looking in when it loads in, that to me is ace. That's amazing. Look at that. That's whoo, breathtaking, breathtaking. You know, the bridge there. Oh God, you can clearly see that. You know, or even the little park here. You know, the waterfront. All the water now looks great. You haven't got that line cutting down. Stick to the river here. Now, as I said before, they do model the 5 boroughs of New York. So, New Jersey is going to be an interesting one, because before we had Mega Scenery handling New York City, and we had ORBX handling New Jersey. So we saw the ORBX version of New Jersey, and now we're about to see the New York City X Dreswick Designs version of New Jersey. Look at that. You could, I mean, you could fly a chopper all in between these buildings, you know, and you can make out the actual buildings, like the MetLife, the Empire State, you know, all the different buildings there. They're all there. Gosh, This is beautiful. And the frames, I think we do lose a couple of frames, like up to 5 frames by installing this. But with a little play of the settings, the sliders, that I can easily get that. Like if I set my target, let's try it now. If I set my target frame rate to 40 instead of 60, or let's try 50 first. Set it to 50. I think the things would load in a little bit quicker, because when it hits that computing power, oh, look at New Jersey, look at that, have that, guys. Ah, wait till it, yeah, it is snapping in a bit quicker now. When it hits its target, 50 frames per second, the rest of the computing power goes into like loading textures, the sky, anything else basically. We low, yeah, we're too low actually. Gosh, let's climb up a bit. But yeah, I mean that view there is so, yeah, it doesn't really make a difference. 50 frames, maybe I need to do it 40. Let's try it 40. It might not even take effect until you restart the computer, to be honest. 40 frames target. I've noticed that that seems to be going down a little bit. I don't know, but yeah, things aren't snapping in as quickly. I do like the water, you know, obviously this is Dreswick design sort of features here. There's no dividing line in the middle anymore. The color of the water is okay. It does look realistic. I mean, this looks like New York and New Jersey, and yeah. Yeah, that's I don't think that really is helping, to be honest. I think I'll just put that back up to 60. In fact, let's just try unlimited, see what happens. I don't think it's actually going to help, because I feel, yeah, the textures, I need to cap it at 60 because textures need to load for Mega Scenery in quicker, so I have to cap it. So but that's just stunning. Look at them buildings. That is just gorgeous, you know. Oh my gosh, that is amazing. Have we passed that boat as well? Is that boat still here? I don't know. No, we've lost that little... There was a cruise ship here before. It seems we've lost it. I think it was sat literally... Oh, hello, the Concorde. There's the Concorde there. Look at that. Yeah, there was a cruise ship sat around here somewhere, but it seems we've lost it. I do have a package for ships and ferries. AI package. That will probably affect the frame rates. But it replaces all your ships, so you have like really nice looking ships, and I'll pop that in a video in the future. But yeah, this is New York. We still need to get to 2,000. I mean, yeah, I'm so happy with this. This looks a lot better. And off in the distance over there is the Mega Scenery State of New York. I don't know, that's the runway. So yeah, let's go fly over the airport real quick, because in the next video I will be installing the 2 airport packages that come with it. Now I'm only going to take off and fly the LaGuardia one, because that's the one we've been flying the most. And let's have a look at New York there. Look at that. Could do with it happening a bit quicker, guys. Like, you know, my computer, I think I need to play with a bit more of the settings, but that is just awesome. Oh gosh. I can't say it enough. I really can't. You know? It does a good job. So when I go flying in New York, either flying over the whole states, when I come to New York City, I know it's taken care of. I know things are going to look great. Look at Central Park, you can actually see features in there. You know, it's handled brilliantly. I just need to work on the loading of it. But to be honest, I ain't surprised that it's loading a bit slow. I mean, how many buildings are here? They're all high quality. They all look photo real, to be fair. So I'm not surprised that it's loading in a little bit slow, because there's so many buildings there. So yeah, I can understand that. But you know, if you're doing a flight and you're only seeing this view and maybe just swinging it a little bit here and there, I really don't think I'm going to notice a difference. My frames are kind of steady-ish. You know, if I locked them down at 25, it probably would be a smoother. It's probably a little jittery, like when you move around, but honestly, I ain't going to complain. But we are going to fly low. I think this is LaGuardia. It looks like LaGuardia. We're going over. We're going to see what it looks like because, as I say in the next video, I'll be totally replacing this airport, and we're going to see, because it's still using the Rex HD airport default, sort of what their textures are, which are really nice photorealistic textures. And we got some good frames down in the airport as well. But let's see what Dreswick Designs do, because obviously their airports are made to be compatible with their sceneries. So it might load in a bit better, might make my frame rates a bit better, who knows. But for now, we're doing a low and slow. Where's the tower? Their tower isn't exactly obvious, is it? Don't know. Slow the plane down a bit. Yeah. I mean, you can see the Mega Scenery, or whatever this is. Hey, Rex, yeah, I think it's Mega Scenery actually. Their textures are still coming in, because obviously this is Dreswick Designs textures, and then you've got this weird one which is Mega Scenery, which from a lot higher would look better, but from down here it just kind of looks like an Atari 8-bit graphic. You know, there's the difference between the road system of Mega Scenery and then Dreswick Design there. Like, their roads obviously have the atmosphere of the sun and the haze, so it's a bit, the color tint is a lot different. Whereas these are artificially made. They're not. This is the actual road. This is a picture of the actual road. Whereas these are just artificially made in the computer. So the coloring can be just done so easily for that. You can see the difference there. But the airport, sparse. You know, it's. I like the texturing on the runway and the taxiway. You know, there's a few. Whoa. There's a few planes dotted about. Probably true representation of the actual airlines that fly into LaGuardia. But the road system there, it's all alright. So there we go. Probably could land on that building, to be honest. That's right there. You could also land on that one. So that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. In the next video, we'll be installing New York City X airports and seeing what difference that makes. Thank you very much for watching this one. Cheers. I've noticed a difference there with the frames, actually. But thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.